Hello, my name's Craig Hamilton Parker, and together with my wife Jane, we go around the world on mystical journeys, giving proof of life after death through our mediumship. We do this in theatres, at conferences, and a great deal of work on television as well. We do all our work nowadays for free, and you'll find out why we do that at the end of this video. Is there a record of everything that's ever happened? Is there a sort of a book of life, you know, that can tell you everything that's ever been, everything that ever is, and everything that ever will be? A bit like the idea of when we go to the afterlife, the angel opens the book and looks in it and says, "This is your life." Eamon Andrews, you know, you remember that. So, you know, but there is, believe it or not. Well, I'll tell you what I believe. We're probably talking here about beliefs in some respects, but I think there are some proofs of it. There certainly has been in my life. It's what I suppose we call the Akashic Record. Now, that's a Sanskrit term, which comes from the word Akasha, which is it's a kind of means, I believe, Akasha sort of means astral, heavenly, ethereal. So it's an ethereal, heavenly record of all that's ever happened. And it was brought, this idea came around first of all by, was brought into common, she wasn't the first person to use it, but I believe Madame Blavatsky, who was a theosophist, a sort of a medium, an odd sort of woman actually, but she kind of brought that into common usage. And like me, actually, she was very interested in Eastern thought, and also like me, spent a lot of time in India, and did a lot of good work there as well. Actually, a very interesting lady to read about. But like me, she explored India, and I explored India a lot, as you will see. If my movies are quite by now, you'll see some of the things I've done over there. But one of the things that I discovered in India was a, how can we call it, a record, but a written record on ancient leaves that told the whole history of my life. I mean, the whole history of my life. Everything. My name, about when I was born, how I was born, where I was born, gave my exact name, told the names of my mother, my father, my brothers, gave all the names of my family and all the events that happened in my life up to the point I consulted the oracle, and told also of all the things that would happen to me thereafter, many of which have come to pass already, and also about my previous lives and why I came here, you know, why the kind of the unfulfilled spiritual needs that needed to come out in this life, and also about my next life. It was all there. And this had been accessed or discovered by a rishi, a seer, an ancient seer, who wrote it all down through the inspiration of the god Shiva, and leaves the record there for me today. Amazing. But what the rishi must have been doing, he was using a form of clairvoyance, but a form of clairvoyance that connected right in with that Akashic record. Somehow he had the spiritual advancement to be able to just tap into it and be able to give the information of he had the knowledge of whoever would consult that oracle, and could give the answer for every person that would consult it. So everybody that's going to consult it's in there. And some of Indian astrology also has this, where the astrologer centuries, I mean thousands and thousands of years ago, they say that these oracles are 10,000 years old, which is older than what Indian culture is supposed to be. So it may be right back to those times that people like Graham Hancock talk about another civilization that was here way before, and that India, for one, and some other cultures, is the custodian of that ancient knowledge. So there was once a time, perhaps, when men could look into the records of all existence and the future records of all existence, and with this knowledge we can guide and change our path, because the records will tell us the good and bad that will happen, and the remedies of how to change that. There's things we can do through magic, through ritual, basically through good deeds. That's what changes the course, so that the good becomes more manifest and the bad that's supposed to happen falls away. Because it's all determined by our karma, and the Akashic Record would show the course of our life, how karma has been generated for good and how karma has been generated for bad, and will show kind of like our heavenly bank account, because we may have much good residual karma, or we might have created bad karma, you know, and we will see that that will have to play itself out in our future lives. And of course the way to generate good karma is to be a good person in this life, and I think that's a wise thing to do, and I think a person that comes closer to real understanding of what the purpose of life is all about will actually want to do that, not just be forced to, or feel morally obliged, or feel that they're going to get some better heavenly bank account by doing good deeds. So this is what I think the Akashic Record's all about. It's the record of our karmic debt. And we can access it, I think, through meditation, through our intuition, and sometimes we just get an understanding of feeling. Perhaps it could be that our conscience connects to the karmic Akashic Record. Our conscience knows what we should do. Why does the conscience know what we should do? How does it know it? Okay, it can balance all the things in our mind. It can say that's right, that's a good thing, that's a bad thing, that's the best thing for you. But the conscience is always telling you to go on a spiritual path, isn't it? Really, to do the spiritual thing, to do the right thing, as the politicians that abuse that idea say. You know, we can find a path, and somehow our conscience knows. But perhaps it draws upon the Akashic Record. Perhaps the conscience is pulling something from that great knowledge that's out there in the astral world. Scientists will poo-poo this, of course, and say it's a load of codswallop. But those that have, like me, for example, been to India and discovered that oracle, you could say, oh, he was conned by somebody. Okay, but then I also saw holy men, met holy men, or some that were really strange holy men, who were these like siddhas, you know, and given up on life. They were just living the spiritual life, but with great austerities and things like this. But these siddha yogis, they said to me exactly the same things as I'd read in the oracles. So, you know, the record was there, and they knew it too. That might have been clairvoyance from their part, or maybe clairvoyance is somehow connecting into this Akashic Record. Maybe when I give a prophecy for someone, I just don't know where on earth it comes from. How do I get these things right? Or whatever, they just sort of pop into your head. So maybe it's being popped in from that great astral library, as it could be described. And I think also, this is, you know, I've written about this on the website and in detail in my book called What to Do When You're Dead. Now, What to Do When You're Dead, which I think is a great title, tells you all about the afterlife and what it's like. And one of the traditional ideas within spiritualism, for example, is that in the spirit world we have these places, this place there called the halls of learning, they call it. Now, in my opinion, the spirit world is not really a place in the same way we would understand a place in this world. But for the spiritualist, and also for many people perhaps who will go into the spirit world, they can't conceive of this abstract world, you know. You can't, it's very hard to live a life of pure light. So they construct around themselves a version of the world they knew, the earthly world. So they have landscapes, beautiful landscapes, they have waterfalls, and maybe even angels playing harps if that's their inclination. And possibly these halls of learning. And maybe others buy into the same idea of a reality, and we create a reality there in which, in the spiritualist sense, is manifested as the idea of the halls of learning. So those halls of learning may be a physical representation or a manifestation of this concept of the Akashic Record, the eternal knowledge, the knowledge that is there, you know, the recording of all things. Now, if we're right, and I believe this is a right concept, if we're right, then let's imagine what it would be like to consult the Akashic Record. Perhaps someone would tell you, perhaps when you go to the spirit world, your spirit guide, or maybe your guardian angel, whichever form you kind of see. Now, there's a whole load of questions about what angels are and spirit guides and things, but the spirit in whatever form they may manifest, which is available to you, maybe a material world around you of some sort, so you can understand these things, a reality created for you, would give you access to the Akashic Record. Maybe they might tell you about your life and say, you know, that this was what you did and that's what you did. But maybe you could also get direct spirit access to it, i.e. you might be able to plug your consciousness into those vibrations, which means you could, in a way, kind of relive the whole of your life. Not just the idea like when people die, they get a whole flash of their life all in one shot. Pow! Is that a sudden rerunning of the Akashic Record, or is it coming from the memory of the person? Or when we go there, maybe we can just plug in and we can relive all of existence. I've seen other mediums talk about this, some of the great mediums. I remember Gordon Higginson, who was a great physical medium, a real one, who, there's very few of them, who talked about this too. And it's the idea that, you know, this very moment, you watching this video now, could be seen by you when you're dead. You'll better come back to it and experience and see it exactly like this now, this moment. With all the noises in the background, all the things that are happening to you around you as you're watching this, you better see it. And you better see all those things that have happened in your life. You better see all the important times. You know, your marriage maybe, your birth of your children, you know, you know, when you were a child, and your granddads and nans and, you know, all the loved ones, all the things that had ever happened are there. And you relive it and see it for a while. How marvellous that would be, wouldn't it? To see it all again, to see the whole thing, experience with absolute, total, 100% clarity. Not like watching a movie, but being it for a while. And I'm sure that happens. I'm sure that's what our spirit buys into. I believe it happens. And it makes me feel that it's rather nice to think that the fact that something has been is then forever. You know, scientists only think of the present moment. This happens, that happens, that happens, and everything that falls back into time is gone. Everything that is past, apart from our human memory, is completely extinguished. Never. There's only now in the concept that this is the only existence where things actually exist. Everything that's past is disappeared forever. The event is gone. Everything that is in the future is gone, but it's never there. But, you know, sometimes I sail the future, so there must be something there. There must be some form to it. There must be some energetic form in the future for me to be able to see it. And in the past, aren't we like a sort of a boat going across a water maybe, that, you know, we leave a trail behind us, or a plane flying in the cloud, we leave something behind us. We trail clouds of glory, as it were. Behind us, there's left a residue. It doesn't just stop. It's there. We've left something in our wake. We've left a vibration. Like when you hold an object in psychometry, you pick up the vibrations of the past. So it means the vibrations from the past can be retained. If I can do psychometry, which I feel I've proven many times, and you hold an object and you can say, oh, this person was so-and-so, 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 this object was that and this. You know, I've read the history of the past. So the past is still existing in some vibratory way. So why not, you know, just as consciousness survives death, why not, could not all existence survive death, survive the now, survive passing? So that it's there, as if the whole universe is constantly unfolding, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and just a huge flower that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And although at this present time on Earth we have no knowledge of, you know, total recall, there is in the spirit world that recall of all things that have ever been, and all things perhaps that ever will be when we get to the enlightened state. So we don't need to live anymore, because our opened awareness understands the present moment. It grasps the whole of the past. It grasps the whole of the future. We become what you would call an omnipresent being. We are everywhere at once, all at the same time, both present and past and future. That is the ultimate siddhi, the ultimate psychic power, omnipresence. So that's some of my first thoughts about the Akashic Record, and I'd be very interested in your view about this. So come to the website if you want to leave a comment, and I'll respond. And you know, there's a lot more I've written in my books I've written a lot about this, the idea of the halls of learning and things, in my book What to Do When You're Dead, the one I mentioned earlier. And also I've talked about the idea that destiny may be already there. You know, that not only can we see our destiny, but our destiny may be set. And I've written about that extensively in my book Messages from the Universe, which is the book that is my most recent book, and I feel very inspired by, and what the upcoming television shows are going to be about as well. So yeah, let's have your comments, and that's all about the Akashic Record and how we can find out what it is and what happened. Jane and I now do our spiritual work for our foundation. All the profits that come from things like our conferences and theatres and workshops and all those exciting things now go into this foundation, which ultimately has the long-term plan of building centres in the UK and maybe around the world one day. But meanwhile, we've been doing a lot of direct spiritual work with it. We've been going out, feeding people in India, giving to the destitute, giving to beggars. We've helped feed schools, helped orphanages, and we've even given cows to older people that have no other form of income. So mediumship can change your life, but it can also help people directly in the world. So go to the links at the end and find out all about what Jane and I are trying to do. And you can do a lot just by sharing these videos on social media. Help us get the word out. Help us to do something really good in this world.